The most popular philosophy book in the world wasn't supposed to be a book. Marcus Aurelius never gave it a title. He never edited it. He never handed a manuscript to anyone and said, "Publish this." He almost certainly never expected another human being to read a single word of it. What we call meditations, this thing that has sold millions of copies, that gets quoted every day, that CEOs and athletes and therapists recommend as life-changing, is a private journal. Notes to himself, written in his tent on the northern frontier, during plague years and war campaigns, by a man talking himself through the hardest period of his life. He wasn't writing to you, he was writing to himself. And once you really understand that, the whole book changes. Here is what we know about how the Meditations came to exist. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome from 161 to 180 of the Common Era. For much of the later part of his reign, roughly the last decade, he was on military campaign along the Danube frontier, fighting Germanic tribes in what is now Austria and Hungary. He was far from Rome. The Antonine Plague, which may have killed 5 million people across the empire, was still ravaging the population. His most trusted general, Avidius Cassius, briefly declared himself emperor in a failed revolt. Several of Marcus's children died young. This is the context in which he wrote. The entries have no consistent structure. Some are a single sentence, some run for paragraphs. They repeat. He circles back to the same ideas: impermanence, duty, not being disturbed by others' opinions, again and again. Not because he is building a curriculum for you, because he keeps forgetting, because the lessons don't stick. Because he is a man trying to hold himself together during a period that would break most people, and he is using writing as the tool to do it. Pierre Hadot, who spent decades studying Marcus, called these spiritual exercises, not philosophy as theory, philosophy as practice, the same way you would do reps at the gym. Marcus wasn't explaining Stoicism. He was doing Stoicism, on the page in real time. The original Greek title, ta eis heuten, translates roughly to things to himself or just to himself. Not meditations, not reflections on wisdom, just notes to himself. That title tells you everything. Most people pick up the Meditations expecting a self-help book, and on the surface, it can read like one. The quotes work in isolation. You have power over your mind, not outside events. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Clean, punchy, tweetable. But read those same passages knowing they were never meant for you, and something shifts. Take Book 2, Entry 1, the famous morning passage. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Read that as advice from Marcus to you, and it sounds a bit harsh, maybe even arrogant. Who is he to tell you that everyone around you is terrible? But he is not talking to you. He is talking to himself. He is a 55-year-old emperor who has to get out of bed and deal with court politics, military logistics, and provincial governors who are stealing from the treasury. He knows he will lose his temper. He knows he will be annoyed. So he is pre-loading his patience. He is coaching himself before the day starts. That is not a guru dispensing wisdom. That is a man who knows his own weaknesses doing the work to manage them, one morning at a time. Or take the passages about death, and there are dozens of them. Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, and the same thing happened to both. Think of the list of people who had to be pried away from life. What did they gain by dying old? As advice, these sound morbid, maybe nihilistic, but as self-talk. This is a man watching people die of plague around him, knowing his own body is failing. Historians suspect he was seriously ill for much of his last campaign, reminding himself that mortality isn't a tragedy, it is the terms of the deal. He is not trying to depress you. He is trying to keep himself from being paralyzed by grief. The repetition matters too. Marcus writes about not caring what others think of you at least a dozen times across the 12 books. If he had mastered it, he would have written it once. The repetition is the proof that this was a daily struggle, not a settled conclusion. He is not lecturing, he is practicing. And that practice looks different from teaching. A teacher says, "Here is the principle, now apply it." Marcus says to himself, "Remember this. You keep forgetting. You got angry again. You cared again about something that doesn't matter. Try again tomorrow." Reading the Meditations as self-talk turns it from a book of answers into a record of someone fighting, and frequently losing, the same battles you fight, which is far more useful than answers. This is worth talking about, because the translation you pick dramatically shapes what Marcus sounds like, and whether you hear a teacher or a man talking to himself. The two most popular modern translations are Gregory Hayes, published in 2002, and Martin Hammond in 2006, both from Penguin. They read like different books. Hayes writes in modern, punchy American English. His Marcus is direct and quotable. Never regard something as doing you good if it makes you betray a trust or lose your sense of shame. That is clean. It sounds like advice. It performs well online. Hayes deliberately chose accessibility, and it works. His translation is probably responsible for most of the modern Stoicism boom. If you have seen a Marcus Aurelius quote online, it is likely Hayes. Hammond is closer to the Greek. His sentences are longer, knottier, sometimes awkward. His Marcus sounds more like a man thinking out loud, which is what was actually happening. The same passage in Hammond will feel less polished, less tweetable, but more like you are reading someone's private notebook. Because you are. Neither is wrong. But the choice matters, because Hayes accidentally makes Marcus sound like he is giving a talk on a stage, and Hammond reminds you that he was just trying to get through the day. If you have only ever read Hayes, try Hammond, or even an older translation, Farquharson, Long, or Staniforth. Read the same passage in 3 versions. What you will notice is that the entries that sound like motivational posters in one translation sound like private confessions in another. The journal was never polished for an audience. When a translation makes it too smooth, it hides the struggle, and the struggle is where the value is. There is a reason I think this distinction, journal versus self-help book, matters beyond academic interest. When you read the Meditations as a self-help book, you put Marcus on a pedestal. He is the wise emperor giving you timeless advice. And if you can't live up to it, if you still get angry, still care what people think, still fear death, then you have failed the philosophy. The book sets a standard, and you fall short of it. But when you read it as a journal, the pedestal disappears. You are reading the private notes of a man who also couldn't live up to it, who also got angry, cared too much, feared loss, who needed to write the same reminders over and over because they didn't stick. Marcus Aurelius wasn't giving you a standard to reach. He was showing you, accidentally, without intending to, what the daily practice of trying to be better actually looks like. Not polished, not complete, not successful every day, just persistent. That is more honest than any self-help book I have encountered, and it is only honest because he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was trying to survive his own mind. The next time you pick up the Meditations, try something. Before you read a passage, add 3 silent words to the beginning. Remember, Marcus. Remember, Marcus, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Remember, Marcus, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. Remember, Marcus, the people you deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, and you were put here to work with them anyway. Those hit differently when you hear them as self-talk instead of instruction, because they were always self-talk. We just got lucky enough to find the notebook. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for you. But the fact that his private struggle looks so much like yours, separated by 2,000 years, an empire, a language, an entire world, that might be the most hopeful thing about it. The problems don't change. The practice doesn't change. And you don't have to be an emperor or a wise man or a finished product to do it. You just have to keep writing yourself reminders.